April 12, 1942. A gutted farmhouse stands alone on the outskirts of Kharkiv, Ukraine. Rain drips from a roof torn apart by artillery fire. The air tastes of smoke, disinfectant, and fear. Inside, beneath a sagging wooden beam, the wounded lie side by side, German, Soviet, and civilian. No uniforms distinguish the suffering here. By the dim light of a single oil lamp, Corporal Eva Jansen, a Red Cross nurse from the Netherlands, moves quietly among them. Her apron is stained, her fingers numb, but her eyes, cold and steady, hold a rare thing on this front. Mercy. Shells echo in the distance as Eva crouches beside a young infantryman whose face is torn open by shrapnel. Her gloved hands move with precision, cleaning, stitching, whispering in two languages so he might understand that he's safe for now. Nearby, Lieutenant Sofia Petrov, a Soviet orderly, hangs a cracked glass bottle from a stick, a makeshift fort filled with warm saline. The bottle trembles as another explosion rolls across the valley. They work shoulder to shoulder, never asking who the wounded fought for. A captured German lieutenant lies only feet away from a Russian conscript. Both moan in pain, both reach for the same nurse. Eva glances up, eyes meeting Sophia's. In this farmhouse, surrounded by ruin, they share an unspoken vow. The war outside does not enter here. The wind sneaks through broken windows, carrying with it the distant cries of soldiers. The front line groans and shifts again. But inside this small kingdom of compassion, time has stopped. For as long as the lamp burns, they will keep the wounded alive. By dawn, the bombardment crept closer. Roof tiles fell like stones, shattering in the mud. Eva steadied the instrument table, scalpels dulled, bottles of morphine half empty, the Red Cross flag hanging at the door like a desperate prayer. A jeep burst through the mist, bringing more wounded, men who barely resembled soldiers anymore. Eva moved quickly, her voice calm amid the chaos. Lay him here. Pressure on the artery. Don't let go. As she worked, Sophia held the soldier's hand, whispering Russian words of comfort. It didn't matter that the man on the stretcher wore German gray. Pain had no language. Then came a voice from the doorway. Sharp, commanding, unmistakably German. This building is under Wehrmacht authority. Medical operations will relocate immediately. Eva froze, her hands still red with blood. The officer's boots crunched across the floor. He gestured toward the Russian wounded. These men are the enemy. The room fell silent. Eva looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. Under this flag, she said, nodding toward the Red Cross hanging behind her, they're all just men who bleed. For a long moment, the officer said nothing. Then, with a cold breath, he turned on his heel and left. The door slammed shut. The nurses exhaled together, the silence heavier than any shell fire. Night arrived like smoke, slow and heavy. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of iodine and exhaustion. Every groan from the wounded felt like the ticking of a clock, a reminder that the front was closing in. Snow began to fall outside, soft flakes melting into the mud. In the distance, the rumble of tanks crept closer again. Sophia looked through the window. They're pulling back, she whispered. But someone's coming from the east. Eva tightened the bandage around a young Russian's stump of an arm. Her hands trembled, but her voice stayed firm. Then we move the ones who can walk. We're leaving before dawn. Before they could act, the door burst open. Soviet soldiers, rifles raised, eyes wild with fatigue. Their leader, a sergeant with a blood-soaked bandage over one eye, glared around the room. This place helps Germans? He spat. Traitors? Eva stood her ground, bloodied gloves raised in calm defiance. This place helps men, she said. You can shoot me if you must, but I will finish what I started. The sergeant stared at her for a long moment, then lowered his rifle. Finish quickly, he muttered. The front will be here before dawn. They worked through the night, illuminated by candlelight and courage. When the morphine ran out, Eva whispered prayers instead. As dawn broke, she stepped outside. Snow covered the battlefield like a burial shroud. Two flags, one Red Cross, one Soviet, hung side by side on a broken post. For the first time in weeks, the world seemed almost silent. For one night, compassion had redrawn the map. By mid-morning, the thunder of artillery rolled closer again. The farmhouse trembled under the weight of explosions. It was time to leave. Eva led the survivors north, nurses, wounded, and deserters alike. The snow swallowed their footsteps as they pushed a cart of supplies through the frozen fields. Behind them, the farmhouse, their sanctuary, burned, its smoke curling into the gray sky. No one spoke. The sound of boots crunching through snow was all that marked their passage. When they reached a small village, half destroyed, half deserted, they found shelter in a schoolhouse. Inside, broken desks were pushed aside, chalk still clinging to the blackboard. Eva unpacked what remained. A few bandages, 2 vials of morphine, 1 Red Cross flag. Sophia collapsed beside her. "Do you think they'll find us here?" Eva looked at the snow falling beyond the window. "I hope they find a flag first," she said softly. That night, they worked by candlelight again. Every flicker of the flame painted their faces in gold and shadow. The war outside raged on, but for a few stolen hours, humanity survived within these walls. Days passed. The schoolhouse had become a fragile island of mercy. Eva rose each dawn to melt snow, for water, to change dressings, to count breaths. Survival had replaced hope. Then one night, she found a crumpled envelope in her bag, a letter she had written weeks earlier to her mother in Amsterdam. She smoothed the paper and began to write again. "Mother, if this reaches you, know that I am still alive. I have seen wounds no medicine can heal, and faces I will never forget. But I have also seen kindness, even here where everything good is supposed to die. The blood that stains my hands is the same color, no matter the flag." When she finished, she folded the letter and held it to her heart. The act of writing felt like breathing again. The next morning, the Soviet tanks arrived. Soldiers shouted orders, demanding evacuation. The wounded were to be taken care of. Eva knew what that meant. She stood tall, holding the Red Cross flag. "These men are under my care," she said. "If you take them, I go with them." The commander hesitated, then nodded. "Then stay," he said quietly, and she did. As the tanks rolled away, Eva sat by the doorway, the letter still in her hand. Smoke rose from the village, and in the distance, the faintest light of dawn pushed through the clouds. In that moment, she understood. The war might erase borders, names, and nations, but not humanity. She had chosen her side long ago, and it wasn't the Axis. It wasn't the Allies. It was the wounded. In the quiet ruins of World War II, people like Eva Jansen reminded the world that compassion could still exist, even when nations forgot it. Her courage wasn't written in medals or history books, but in the lives she refused to abandon. Stories like hers remind us, humanity survives when someone chooses to care. If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to America in Time, where we bring history's untold moments back to life.